Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear participants. Welcome to this session of Meezan lecture series. We will be studying belief in the prophets, a topic that we had begun a few sessions ago. So, as far as beliefs and faiths is concerned, this is something that is the main topic in contention. We had already covered the nature of belief in God. So now we are on to the next tenet, which is belief in the prophets of God. And in this tenet, we have been studying two very important details. One of them was that what exactly is the need of a prophet? Why is he needed at all? And what are his functions as such? And the second is the essence of prophethood that we have discussed earlier on. So today we will be taking up our discussion from there, and we'll start off with the third point, as has been discussed by Ustad Ghamidi. And this third point regarding belief in prophets relates to how are we able to identify a prophet? What makes a prophet a prophet? What are the distinct traits and his own personal views that make him a prophet of God, and through which we can clearly see and objectively identify a person to be a prophet of God? Now, the highest of human traits are personified in a prophet, and his message is based on what is known and familiar to human nature. So, the fountainhead of all virtues, we have to understand, is two things: remembering the Almighty and showing sympathy to the needy. Two things: remembering the Almighty and showing sympathy to the needy. A prophet is an embodiment of these virtues and urges others as well to adopt them. Whatever he says to people conforms to the highest intellectual standard, and what he says relates only to those things about which human beings can become indifferent or forgetful. So he reminds them. Moreover, his prophethood is not something which can be inquired or acquired through self effort. It's not something that you can just do it with hard work. Every right minded person has no difficulty in recognizing a prophet of God when he arrives on the planet Earth. If a person has a discerning mind and a vibrant heart, the very person of a prophet is a miracle. And it is precisely to this aspect that this verse that we're going to study from Surah Nahl tells us. It says, "Tell them, had God pleased, I would never have recited His Quran to you, nor would He have made you aware of it. It is His decision, because I have spent a lifetime among you. Do not use your do you not lose your senses?" And I'm sorry, this is not Surah Nahl, this is Surah Yunus, verse 16 and Surah number 10. So the Prophet, it is being said through the tongue of the Prophet that had the Almighty not intended, not decided, He was not going to recite out the Quran to you. He had no inkling about it. He has absolutely no connection. He was chosen by God. And then it is said, "Fakat the bistu fikum umara," that I have spent a lifetime amongst you. I was not an author. At the age of 40, had I been an author, something would have emanated from me in the form of a discourse. But you know very well that I am unlettered. So, if anything, it is just God's choice that He has chosen me and He has given me and blessed me with this message. So, the important thing is that it is not an acquired status, it is something which is God gifted. Now, besides this, the Almighty blesses a prophet with potent signs, which, though may not induce his adversaries to openly acknowledge him, but they are sufficient to leave them with no excuse to deny his veracity. And for this very reason, at one place in the Quran, uh, it has been declared that everyone from among the people of the book of the times of Prophet Muhammad, before his or her own death, would profess faith in him. Everyone amongst the people of the book. وَإِن مِّنْ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ إِلَّا لَيُؤْمِنَنَّ بِهِ قَبْلَ مَوْتِهِ, which means that every single person from amongst the people of the book, before his own departure from this world, will acknowledge that he is a true prophet. It is evident from the Quran that these signs are given to every prophet, and their nature depends upon the times and circumstances of a prophet. So, in the terms of the Quran, these signs and these miracles, they are called bayyinat or ayat, which means that these are clear signs from the Almighty. So now, Ustaz Ghamidi, the way he has summarized the various points, in particular, these are 5 points through which a prophet can be identified, through which we can objectively understand that any person who has these 5 traits is someone to whom God has granted prophethood. The first of these things is that A prophet generally comes in accordance with the prediction of the prophet who precedes him and comes as a fulfillment of this prediction. So, prophecies are found about that prophet, and these prophecies are generally given by the previous prophet. So, in other words, he is not an unintroduced personality. People are familiar with him and also await him. It is known from the Quran that the Prophet John, Yohanna, as he's called in the Bible, foretold the coming of Jesus all over Jerusalem. And it is evident from the Quran that the predictions and prophecies of the arrival of Prophet Muhammad are mentioned both in the Old Testament and in the New Testament. The Quran has made it clear in Surah Saf that one of the primary objectives of the advent of Jesus, according to that verse in Surah Saf, was to prophesy about the coming of an unlettered prophet in Arabia. The Quran has also presented the fact that the scholars of the Israelites recognize it the way an estranged father recognizes his son as a conclusive proof of its own authenticity. So the Quran says that the Prophet himself was someone who was clearly recognized by the people of the book. This means that they fully recognize Prophet Muhammad as well, because if they clearly understand the Quran to be a book of God, I mean, the Quran and the Prophet are they are the same sides, or the two opposite sides of the same coin. They present the same reality, and that is why, at one instance in the Quran, it is said, uh, "And this has been revealed by the Lord of the universe with great care and attention. The faithful Spirit has brought it down into your heart so that you may become a warner to people in eloquent Arabic speech." It is also mentioned in the early scriptures. Is not this a sufficient proof for them that the scholars of the Israelites know him? So the Arabic words are أَوَلَمْ يَكُلْ لَهُمْ آيَةً أَنْ يَعْلَمَهُ عُلَمَاءُ بَنِي إِسْرَائِيل. So is it not sufficient that the scholars of the Bani Israel, the Israelites, they clearly know him? So this is the first objective standard, that every prophet is not someone who takes people by surprise. About his arrival, a previous prophet would be predicting, would be prophesying that such and such a personality is going to come. And regarding Prophet Muhammad, this arrangement was even more elaborate. We find that Moses, centuries before his arrival, before the arrival of Prophet Muhammad, talked about his advent. Similarly, all later prophets, they talked about the advent of Prophet Muhammad. So Prophet Muhammad was someone who was being awaited by the people of the book, especially because in their scriptures his arrival was clearly mentioned. And we also know from other instances in the Quran that when he arrived, the righteous amongst them, they professed faith in him and they became his followers and they became Muslims. And yes, there were others who became adamant on their denial. And precisely for this reason, at one instance, the Quran has said, "Allah takunu awwala kafirin bihi," that you should not be the first ones to reject him, because you were expected to be the first ones to welcome him. How come you're rejecting him? Because he is someone whom you have been waiting for centuries. So the first point is that anyone who is to be declared as a prophet, for him you'll find predictions and prophecies that his is that he is going to take the stage after the previous prophet. And I've just referred to this fact when Ustaz Ghamidi has also said that in the case of Prophet Muhammad, Jesus actually prophesied about his arrival by taking his name. Ya'ti min ba'di ismuhu Ahmad. The word Ahmad we know is the name of Prophet. So Ahmad is his name, and with that he was actually he was mentioned by this name in the Gospel. And that is what the Quran has said in Surah Saf, that Jesus came for this very purpose. And the word Injil, the Gospel, the way we know it in Greek language, it means good news. And of course, this good news relates to the arrival of the Prophet himself, that this was a glad tiding given to the people that soon the person whom they are waiting for is going to arrive. The second point, the second thing through which we can identify a prophet is that whatever a prophet presents as the word and message of God is without any contradiction or any form of inconsistency. Now, if you look at human beings, the way they author their own works, and if you look at the work that has been authored by God, which is, of course, the Quran in this instance, we see that even the most ultimate of geniuses of this world, like Socrates and Aristotle, Kant and Einstein, Razi and Zamakhshari, Ghalib and Iqbal, Shakespeare, Milton cannot make such a claim about the works they have produced. The Quran has vehemently asserted about itself that there is not a semblance, not an iota of contradiction in the philosophy and ideology it presents. Now, is it possible? I mean, the question that arises now is that is it possible that for years a person should give speeches and sermons on a variety of topics in different situations and circumstances, and when these speeches are compiled from the beginning to the end, they form such a harmonious and congruous discourse that it has no contradiction of views and does not reflect any effects of mood change of the speaker, and also does not depict any revision or change of views. For 23 long years, whatever was preached on the first day was the same as was preached on the last day. There was no evolution of thought, and at the same time, of course, there was no contradiction. So, this is only a divine work that can boast of such a trait. Every human work authored has these traits. It has revisions, it has discrepancies, it has contradictions. But the Quran is the work of God, which makes it a work of God, that it has no contradictions. And in fact, towards this aspect, it has been pointed out by the Quran itself. And the words are, do they not ponder on the Quran? أفلا يتدبرون القرآن ولو كان من عند غير الله لوجدوا فيه اختلافا كثيرا. Had it come from someone other than God, they would have found many contradictions in it. So, the second trait is that the Quran is free of any contradiction. There are no discrepancies. In fact, people have tried their best to point out these discrepancies, and there are scores and scores of websites today that you can find in which these discrepancies or these contradictions have been pointed out, or people have tried to point these out. But you will see that if the language of the Quran is properly understood, if due attention is given to the coherence in the discourse, these contradictions which seem to be contradictions, they are easily resolved. And so sound and well knit is every idea of the Quran, both in its principle and in the corollaries of these principles, that even the formulae of arithmetic and geometry are not as sound and well knitted. So connected and linked are the beliefs it teaches that if any one of these beliefs is removed, the whole chain and sequence, it just falls apart. The rituals of worship and other directives it gives spring from beliefs just as branches spring from a stem. The deeds and morals it instructs its followers to obey emanate from their principles in a manner natural and obvious. I mean, it's so natural and obvious that you just are enthralled when you read this. The system of life which comes into existence as a result of its overall teaching is like that of a lead cemented wall in which every brick is attached to the other in a manner that it cannot be separated from the other except if a gap is created in the whole structure and a fissure appears. So this is a second very important trait or distinction through which we can identify a prophet, that the discourse which emanates from him, the discourses that have emanated from the prophets of God, they are without contradiction and without any discrepancy. And this we can say with certainty about the Quran, because the previous scriptures we know that they have not been preserved. So if any discrepancy is found in them, it owes more to the translation, because we don't have the original, and also at times to the fact that there have been interpolations. But if you look at the Quran, you'll find it to be a book that stands out. It's a book which has its own, find any single contradiction, and every time that you go into the Quran with this intention, yes, you might end up finding some very minor contradictions, which apparently are contradictions because as linguists, or as people who lack in linguistics, at times the very peculiar and a very subtle and very highly eloquent style of the Quran is lost. If that style is fully given a deference to, then you'll find that there is no contradiction, and that is what makes the Quran to be a work of God, and it's a masterpiece of literature as well. The third thing which Ustaz Ghamidi has put forth in this regard is that a prophet is blessed with miracles from God. We've just discussed this earlier on as well, bayinat, as the Quran says. And the Quran has specified that One of the reasons for which extraordinary miracles were given to Jesus and Moses, peace be upon them, was to authenticate them as messengers of God. So, after mentioning the staff of Moses and his white hand, the Quran has said something very interesting, and that is what you find before you on the screens. So, these are two very clear signs from your Lord for the Pharaoh and his leaders. Surely they are a disobedient people. So these are two very clear signs of God, which means that in order to authenticate the prophethood of Moses, he was given the staff, which of course turned into a snake, and he was given the miracle of the white hand. No one can reject these miracles by pronouncing them as magic or trickery or sorcery. Now, the reason for this is that the reality behind such things is very much known to those who are adept in such disciplines, and they too are compelled to acknowledge such disciplines, such miracles. So, in order to eliminate the influence of the miracles of Prophet Moses, referred to his white hand and to the staff, the Pharaoh had adopted this very test. It was this very test that he had adopted. So the Quran says that he sent for all the top-notch magicians of his country and presented them before people at a festival. He made this arrangement anticipating victory that he's going to vanquish and conquer whatever Moses is telling them. But when these magicians saw the staff of Moses consuming their spells, they prostrated before him at once and declared their faith in the Lord of Moses and Aaron, as is specified in the Quran. Now, since such faith is only produced when someone witnesses a reality through his very eyes, such was its strength that when the Pharaoh threatened to haphazardly cut their hands and feet and to crucify them on the trunks of palm trees, this is again mentioned in the Quran, you know what these magicians said? They said that a very short while ago you were imploring for reward. I mean, these were the magicians who were imploring for a reward, that if they win, they would be rewarded because of their victory. So about them, the Quran declared vehemently that after witnessing such a phenomenon, they did not even care for their own lives. They were absolutely convinced that these were miracles from God. And this is something which the Quran has actually pointed out. It says, they replied, we shall never give preference to you over the clear signs which have come to us and over the being who created us. So these are the magicians. This is the reply of the magicians given and cited in the Quran, that we shall never give preference to you over the clear signs which have come to us and over the being who created us. So what do you want? At best, you can only decide the fate of this life. We have professed faith in our Lord so that He forgives our sins and forgoes the sorcery you have forced us to adopt. God only is good, and He only will remain forever. Clearly, you can see that this admission of the magicians was very, very compelling. It showed that they clearly knew that there is a big difference between trickery, sorcery, magic, and between a true miracle. And this they actually responded by acknowledging and saying that even if you crucify us, you can do what you like, but we now understand that this is from God. Now, a question may arise that what exactly was the miracle given to Prophet Muhammad? We see, of course, that Jesus was given miraculous signs, like he could raise the dead. I mean, he could cure the lepers, and so on and so forth. But the miracle that was given to Prophet Muhammad, if we deliberate, we find that the miracle that was given to him to validate, to ratify his prophethood, was the Quran itself. So, if you are aware of the stylistic features of the Arabic language and of its literary tradition, and if you also have a literary appreciation of the language, you can read the Quran and you'll clearly feel that this could not have been produced by human beings. The more, the more you look at this, the more you read the Quran, the more you'll find that this could not have been a human discourse. At more than one instance, the Quran has actually challenged its addressees who do not regard it to be of divine origin, and they actually regard it to be a fabrication, a concoction, or a production by Prophet Muhammad himself. So the Quran has said and gone on to say that just produce a single surah that can match the majestic style of the Quran. If, as they say, a person from their own people can do such a thing without any literary background, it should not be difficult for them to do this. And we have known that this has never happened in history. Yes, people have tried to imitate the Quran, but this has never happened. So, a very amazing challenge thrown by the Quran. It's something which is stupendous. It actually means that it is not possible for a human mind to replicate something like the Quran. This challenge related to the extraordinary uniqueness of the Quran with regard to its sublime style and eloquence. It required that they present a discourse in which, like the Quran, one could see God speaking in it. It should not be an imitation. It should not be a copy. It should not be a mere copy of the Quran. It should be something of the same level and the same status and the same majesty as the Quran. It should be a discourse that explains everything that is essential for mankind and which was never explained by any human being. It should guide them in affairs in which there is no other means of guidance, a discourse in which our intuition bears witness, which is corroborated by established facts derived from knowledge and reason, which enlivens dead hearts the way rain enlivens desolate terrains and dry land. It has the same majesty and grandeur felt in each and every word by every person who knows the language of the Quran. In fact, history tells us that no one from among its adversaries dared to face this challenge. We know that they did try, but they had miserable failure in this regard. And it is towards this that the Quran is pointed out by saying that, and if you are in doubt about what we have revealed to our servant, then go and produce a single surah like it. And for this purpose, also call your leaders besides Allah if you are truthful in your claim. But if you cannot, and of a surety you cannot. So just mark these words. That what the Almighty is telling people is that if you cannot, and of surety you cannot, then fear the fire whose fuel is these men who do not believe, and these stones also whom they worship. It has been prepared for these rejectors. This book of God is still with us, dear viewers. 14 centuries have passed over it. During this period, our world has undergone tremendous changes. There have been leaps and leaps of understandings, and things and theories have been theorized, hypotheticated. Many ideologies and thoughts were presented and they were rejected later. Theories regarding human beings, the way they have been created, the way human beings and the universe they correlate to one another, they have been presented. But clearly, each underwent a process of acceptance or rejection in various periods of time. The intellectual journey took human beings through various paths and destinations. But this book of God is the only book which is as unassailable and sound today as it was 14 centuries ago regarding the various facts it presents, and which have remained under academic discussion in the past couple of centuries. Knowledge and intellect helplessly acknowledge its superiority. Every statement it has given has stood the test of time. The world, in spite of its astounding scientific and academic discoveries, has failed to present a better alternative to the views which are presented by the Quran. And again, once we find the Quran saying this in Surah Bani Israel, it says, and we have revealed it with the truth, and with the truth it has come down, and no prophet, we have sent you forth only to proclaim good news for those who believe, and to give warning to those who deny. So this is how we see that as far as the Quran is concerned, it has gone through all the tests of time, and it is destined to take us to the end of times with the same clarity and with the same consistency. The fourth thing which Ustad Ghamidi has pointed out is that the Almighty informs a prophet of certain unknown things which are impossible to come into the knowledge of any other human being at that time. Now, one example of this is the prediction made by divine revelations which were fulfilled to the utmost. Some of these predictions are mentioned in the Quran and some in the Hadith narratives. So, every student of the Quran is aware of the predictions regarding the supremacy of Prophet Muhammad in Arabia. In Meccan surahs, when he was all alone by himself, he had predicted that God is going to prevail, make this religion prevail. And the conquest of Mecca and the people entering the folds of Islam in multitudes, they bore him out. Another great prediction made by the Quran was the victory of the Romans after being defeated by the Persians. And the Quran has actually referred to this in Surah Rum when it says, the Romans have been defeated in a nearby land. But in a few years after this defeat, they shall become victorious. Whatever happened earlier happened because of God's directive, and what happens later will happen because of His directive. And on that day, the believers will rejoice because of God's help. He helps whomsoever He wants to, and He is the mighty and merciful. This is God's promise, and God never goes back on His promise, yet most men do not know. So we know that how this happened, that when the Romans were defeated and this prediction came across, it was absolutely impossible that they could have arisen again. But we know from history that it actually happened, and the Romans rose once again and they were able to defeat the Persians. The fifth thing, and the last thing which Ustad Ghamidi has presented as an identification of a messenger of God, is that prophets who are designated as messengers, Rasul, are a symbol of divine justice in this world, and they decide the fate of their people in this very world. The details of this promise, of course, are found in almost every third or fourth page of the Quran. And it is said that if these messengers abide by their covenant with God, they are rewarded in this world, and if they deviate from it, they are punished in this world. The result is that the very existence of these messengers becomes a sign of God, and it is that they witness God walking with them on the face of the earth and administering justice alongside them. It is this situation which became the basis of passing judgment by the Almighty, both in this world and that to come. And the Almighty grants supremacy to these messengers and punishes those who reject their message. So, this is a law of God, that every messenger is destined to triumph, is destined to prevail on his enemy. And as a law, it has been mentioned clearly in Surah Yunus, verse 47. So, the words are, and for each community there is a messenger. Then, when their messenger comes, their fate is decided with justice, and they are not wronged. So, وَلِكُلِّ أُمَّةٍ رَسُولٌ فَإِذَا جَاءَ رَسُولُهُمْ قُضِيَ بَيْنَهُمْ بِالْقِسْطِ وَهُمْ لَا يُظْلَمُونَ. So, viewers, these are the five important identification marks of a messenger of God. And if we move backwards, we can say that first of them is that prophets who are designated as messengers, they create a miniature day of judgment on the face of this earth, which is the greatest proof of the fact that they are prophets of God. The second, as I said, that we are going backwards, is that the Quran mentions predictions, certain predictions which human beings could never have known in their own times. And it is through these predictions that it validates that it is the work of God. And then in the third instance, we know that this is a work of God, this is a book of God about which we know that it has no contradictions. It is majestic, it is grand. Its features are so that it cannot be replicated. It cannot be in any way replicated by human beings. And as such, we have to understand that these are some of the things that it has. Secondly, every messenger is given certain signs or miracles, and these miracles are according to the age in which that messenger is sent. And lastly, we know that every messenger is an introduced personality. He does not take people by surprise. It's not that people come to know about him for the first time. No, it is through it is through prior introduction that he is a well-known personality. People are actually waiting for him. So these are the five traits about which we can say that they scientifically, objectively can prove the prophethood of any prophet of God. You can judge any prophet of God on these five standards. So with this, we come to an end to today's discourse, and inshallah, we'll take up some of the remaining traits of prophets and prophethood in our future sessions. But as for now, if you have any questions, please raise them.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saleem. A reminder to all the participants, to ask any questions, please raise your hand via the raise hand button, or you can post your questions in the chat. And if you'd like to remain anonymous, you can send them directly to me in the chat. Noshad Shafkat, please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum, but sir, I don't have a question today. I'm just making comment. Today's lecture is absolutely brilliant, very moving, and so full of information, knowledge, and very, very touching for me. Thank you very much, sir. Absolutely brilliant.
Most welcome. Actually, it's
Thank you.
not me as much as our teacher who has given us this guidance. So basically, I'm just reproducing what I've understood from him.
Absolutely, sir. But the way you presented it today is, for me, something sublime. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you
most
very
welcome.
much for the praise. Our next question comes from the chat. It asks, कुरान मुझसे ही लेकिन मौजज़ा ही लेकिन फिर भी क्या कोई ख़ास वजह थी कि खुदा ने हज़रत मूसा या हज़रत ईसा की तरह मौजज़े की नहीं दी? मौजज़ा तो इंजील और तौरात भी होगी.
Right. So you see, we just discussed this, that the miracles that were given to people, or to prophets to be more precise, they related to the age in which they were sent and in accordance with the requisite of that age. Now look at the fact that Moses was being sent to the Pharaoh. The Pharaoh would not have even entertained him. He would not have even given, lent his ear to what Moses had to say to him, unless, and of course, firstly, something out of the ordinary would be presented to him. So we know from the Quran, from the Bible, in fact, the Quran refers to it as well, that there were 9 miracles that were given to Moses. 2 of them have been mentioned here, the staff and the white hand. We have 7 more miracles. The Quran just refers to them, that they were total of 9, but it just mentions 2 of them. The remaining 7 can be found in the Old Testament, and you'll see them. So the way they were given to him was that if thrown out from the presence of the Pharaoh. Regarding Jesus, if you look at his age, now he was supposed to be the last messenger of the Israelites, the last messenger. After his departure, their fate would be inevitably sealed. After his departure, they would have been destroyed. They would have been put to task. So therefore, the miracles that were given to him were extraordinary, bringing the dead to life. It's only something that God can do. So, the way he brought back people to life, the way he cured the lepers, and some of the other miracles, you can clearly see, was meant to jolt the Israelites that this is the last chance that you have. And now, if you look at Prophet Muhammad, by the time he arrived on the scene, humanity has reached the stage in which reasoning and at the same time proofs and how you argue in favor of certain truths had become the name. It had become the sound and the voice of time, I would say. So you find the Quran to be a very, very lofty piece of literature, because the Arabs, they were very proud of their language prowess. They thought that they had great poets amongst them, and they had great sermonizers amongst them. They had great debaters amongst them. And so they took pride in presenting themselves as a very literary nation. So the Quran is a literary masterpiece. It appealed to them. And we know that Walid bin Mughira, for example, about him, we know that he actually submitted to the Quran. And Walid bin Mughira is one of the greatest literary figures of Arabia. And when he did that, it was as if their back was broken. And when they saw that their leader in literary sciences had acknowledged the Quran, it was just a question of time that the rest of them also did. And we also know that finally it was the Prophet's nation who had completely accepted faith. All of them accepted faith. They reposed their confidence in the Quran. Yes, there were a couple of people who were punished, but a very, very large majority had entered the fold of Islam because of this outstanding language and literary masterpiece of the Quran's status. So, again, as I said, you have to understand that every prophet was given a miracle according to the circumstances in which he was sent.
Thank you very much for that explanation, Dr. Saleem. Our next question asks, जब ख़त्म नबूवत में ख़त्म की मतलब पर बात की जाती है तो एक शायर ने अपने ऊपर ख़त्म का लफ्ज़ का इतलाक़ किया है, इसका मिसाल दी जाती है, इसके बारे में आपका क्या राय है?
I think we have discussed this a number of times, and in the discussion of prophethood, this is going to come up as well in our later sessions. But just to give you a very short answer, the word khatim has been used in the sense that you have referred to when you say that I am the last of these. It also can refer to the fact that I am the best of these. So the word last, as used in the Quran, in linguistics and in every language, when you say that he is the last poet or he is the final person of such and such a discipline, it also refers to the fact that he is the best amongst them. But you see, the Quran, in order to circumvent this confusion and I mean, it's like already knowing that this confusion could have happened, it did not use the word khatim, it used the word khatam. So the word khatam can never be used in the meaning of khatim. Khatam means a seal of the prophets, a seal which actually ends something. So I think what needs to be understood is that there's a difference between khatim and khatam. Khatim, had the word khatim been used, this could have been one of the confusions, that yes, it also means the best and not the last. But as I said, the Quran did away with this, and it never used the word khatim, it used the word khatam.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saleem. Noshad Shafkat, please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Just one question with regard to the miracles given to the prophets. The problem arises when Jesus was given miracles like bringing the dead back to life and curing lepers. And it is because of these miracles that the Christians say that he was God incarnate as
Yeah.
a human being. So, how would you address that, sir?
As I said, I mean, these were ultimate miracles, and the reason that they were given to Jesus was that the fate of his own people was about to be sealed. If they would end up trying to kill him, it was the last chance that was to be given. Remember, Jesus was the last of the Israelite prophets. The Bani Israel were to be deposed from this position. So, in order to shake and jolt them, in order to awaken them from their slumber, these extraordinary miracles were given to Jesus so that they could realize that he is a prophet of God, he is from God, and they must stick to the task that was given to them by Moses. So basically, it's like a 2,000-year-old journey which was being culminated on in the person of Jesus. He was being told that because he's the last prophet, and over these vast period of 2 millennia, his people or the Israelites, they have seldom conform to the message of the Torah. So therefore, it is their last chance. Otherwise, they will be deposed. So it's like a whole nation of 2,000 years, extending over 2,000 years, being deposed from their position and then being subjected to eternal punishment. So that is why such outstanding and such, I would say, eye-opening miracles were given to him.
Dr. Sab, another verse quoted said that those who do not believe,
Mm,
they and the stones or the idols that they worshipped would also burn in hellfire. Now, the
right.
problem is, why would the idols burn in
Mm,
hellfire? Because they were just lifeless idols.
right.
Why would they
Right.
be punished in the same way as those
Yes.
who
Hmm.
did?
Actually, you see, this is just a literary style to add insult to injury. What is being said is that not only will you people be condemned and consigned to hell, even these deities about whom you think that they are going to save you, they are going to intercede for you. I mean, they would not be there for you. In fact, they will be with you in hell. So it's like adding insult to injury, basically.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. You are on a roll today, mashallah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saleem. Akram Bhatti, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mariam. Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Wa alaikum assalam.
There in Surah Nisa 159, when Allah says,
Mhm.
وَإِمَّنْ أَهْلَ الْكِتَابِ إِلَّا لِيُؤْمِنَنَّ بِهِ قَبْلَ مَوْتِهِ.
Yes.
Who is Allah referring to? Isa alayhi salam, or Quran Pak, or Surah Sallallahu?
Well, we have discussed this verse in a lot of detail in our one of our earlier series. I think it was in an analytical study of the Quran. I dealt at length because you see, this is a very long verse. It is one of the longest in the Quran, and because of the fact that the previous verse refers to Jesus, that people think that it refers to Jesus. Whereas, if you look at how the whole paragraph began, it began with the verse, Yes, Aluka Ahlul Kitab, O Prophet, these people ask you. So basically, the Prophet Muhammad is under discussion. And that is why وَإِن مِّنْ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ إِلَّا لَيُؤْمِنَنَّ بِهِ refers to the fact that these people of the book will, in your times, O Prophet, they'll believe in the Quran before their own death. So the reason that this explanation at times is not easy to understand is that because people don't realize that the whole discourse, the way it started off about 7 or 8 lines earlier on, it was not addressing Jesus, it was addressing Muhammad. And therefore, it had to connect back to Muhammad. So this is like a parenthetical insertion. It's called Jumla Mu'taraza. It's something that was inserted, and if you take out that insertion, you connect it from the from the very beginning, it's going to become very easy for you to understand. I've just been able to give you some hints. Otherwise, in the absence of the whole structure, you might not find it easy to digest what
I
I've just
I
said.
I remember that what you said, but when I read it again over and over, I got confused.
So the
So
reason is
just
that you are
reference.
connecting those verses to the previous sentence.
Okay.
That is why.
It
Otherwise, if
was
you look at Yes, Aluka Ahlul Kitab, the in between is just a parenthetical sentence. It does not relate to the next verse.
it was people who were living at the time of Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi
Yes,
Wasallam. They
correct,
would
correct.
die before. That's what it.
Because you see the words are Yes Aluka Ahlul Kitab, O Prophet Muhammad, these people of the book, which are standing in front of you, they ask you, Antunazzil alayhim kitab min as-sama, that you reveal a book to them from heavens. Faqad sa'alu Musa akbara min zalik, and they have made even greater demands from Moses. So the whole discourse is towards Prophet Muhammad and not towards Jesus.
Thank you very much. Thank you for clarification. I just get confused sometimes.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saleem. I had a question following up from the Khatam versus Khatam. I
Right.
don't understand why is there a discourse about the superiority or like the bestness of which prophethood when Allah
Okay.
himself says
Yeah.
that believers will say that لا نفرق بين أحد من رسله in Surah Baqarah.
Actually, this has happened because in India and Pakistan, if you've heard of Mirza Ghulam Ahmed Qadiani, as he's called. So Mirza Ghulam Ahmed Sahab, he is someone who claimed to be a prophet of God in about 100 years from now, 100 years ago. So the claimants or the followers of him who adhere to his teachings, they are called the Ahmadis. And the Ahmadis, when they are asked that isn't Prophet Muhammad the last of the prophets, so they argue that this verse is not referring to the last of the prophets; it's referring to the fact that he's the best of the prophets. So that is why the discussion of Khatim and Khatam has become so important, because claimants to prophethood like Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Sahab, and of course, there were others after Prophet Muhammad also who claimed to be prophets of God. We have a number of prophets, a number of people claiming to be prophets of God, and some of them, as I said, in particular, the followers of Mirza Sahab have said that the word Khatim, if it is mentioned in the Quran, it doesn't. I mean, it is not against the fact that prophethood. I mean, a new prophet could have come. They said that the word Khatim in the Quran, as they would say, is referring to the best of prophets, and it does not in any way mean that prophethood had ended.
Thank you so much for that explanation, Dr. Saleem. That explains a lot. Last call for any on-topic question. If you have anything related to our topic, please raise your hand now. If not, Dr. Saleem, we have a few extra minutes. Should we go to
Yes,
off-topic
yes,
questions? Okay.
yes. Please
Our
do.
first off-topic question asks, क्या सिर्फ علانية قبूलियत निकाह की शर्त है या इसके साथ दो गवाहों का होना और खुतबा भी निकाह की शर्त में से है? क्या सिर्फ علانية قبूलियत से निकाह हो जाएगा अगर रिश्तेदार राजी ना हो और कोर्ट मैरिज की शरइया में क्या acceptance है?
Yes. So you see, an open declaration, what does that mean? It means that the society should know that you are now going to live as husband and wife. So what is, I mean, two witnesses is the minimum of that. I mean, this is just a thing which our jurists have placed it there. Otherwise, open declaration means that the society around you should know that you're now living as husband and wife. Your neighbors, your friends, your family, the people that you know, they should know that you're not living in a life of sin. You're living as husband and wife. So that is what open declaration actually means. Secondly, yes, marriage can take place with the consent, with just the consent of the boy or the girl or the man or woman who intend to marry. It is not essential that their parents be part of the ceremony, although it is highly recommended, because basically the families they get married. It's not just the husband and wife who get married. For these reasons, it has been highly recommended. But if the family in any way does not support this decision, then the couple have all the authority to marry. Sermon is not an essential part of the nikah. Or the boy or a girl or a man or a woman can himself conduct and say these words of acceptance. And at the same time, as I said, that whatever this acceptance and rejection would be, it must be known to the society and the people around whom you live, so that they know that you are living as husband and wife, and so that your reputation is not at stake.
Thank you, Dr. Saleem. Rafia Khwaja, please go ahead.
मैं आपसे ये सवाल कर रही हूँ कि I have been seeing कि अभी lately somebody studying in a madrasa, 14-year-old was beaten so badly that he died. तो मेरे ये सवाल है, I know you previously have discussed it, this is a government problem, but this is such a painful thing that this is Islam being taught in madrasas and 14-year-old being beaten to death. Is there any solution you see which, as a lay person, I could do something to help in some way? I don't know.
It's such a huge tragedy, such a tragic event. I mean, these events, they happen every now and then. Either child molestation takes place or children are beaten to death. And all that we can say is that this is because of the fact that the people that you select for teachers, they are savages, they are barbarians, they are not human in the sense that we should like them to be. So there should be a very vigorous process of teachers selection and their training, whether it's a madrasa or a school or a college or university. It's not just sufficient that you are adept in your subject. That is just one important element that you should have. Equally important is if you are a compassionate human being or not. And that is something that we can judge if we give proper training to people, and we can actually analyze that such a person is not fit to become a teacher. Equally applicable is the same thing is to many doctors. Today I see many doctors not fit to be doctors because they don't have compassion. They might be very, very proficient in their fields, but that human element is so drastically lacking, and you don't feel like conversing with these people. So you see, basically it's the selection of people that you do. This process should not just entail competence in the subject, it should entail humanity, compassion, and consideration. And if that is in any way lacking, such a person should not be should not be selected to this position. As far as the question is concerned that what can a common man do, of course, we feel helpless because it becomes a horrific news in the press whenever it comes out. The thing is, I think all that we can do is create awareness about these acts, and then once they happen, the person involved should be properly taken to task and punished and made an example, so that things like these are not repeated, at least in the same seminary or same institution. Public awareness is something that we can do. I mean, there are a lot of NGOs in the private sector who have taken up specific areas in which they would like to reform the society. So I think reformation for teachers or something to the sort, in which people have this agenda that in the private sector they are going to create this awareness, and they are going to create a pressure group and a think tank in which this realization is actually put forth, that as community leaders, as teachers, people should have no place in their position if they lack these ordinary human qualities.
Dr. Saab, is there any hope that the government would punish like this? Jisne bhi mara hai, is there any hope?
Can we at least hope? The reason that there is very little hope is that you see the pressure that is created in such an institution is that the government does not interfere in their matters, and it in fact feels scared in interfering with the matters of madrasas because of their own weakness. So if you're talking about our current government, I would say no. But if you talk about the awareness that can be created, then I think that pressure groups and think tanks, if they are found in a society, if they are doing their work, they can make a difference. And above all, we should at least try to do so. Whether we are able to achieve something or not is beyond us. But what we should do and what we can do is to make an effort.
बहुत shukriya, Dr. Saab. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saleem. Akram Batisa, please go ahead.
Thank you, ma'am. Sir, I was asked a question about this dating part. They said, well, if nikah is only to declare that we're going to live together, that we declare as a husband and wife we're going to live together, gave them an answer. I want to know if I was correct. I answered them that when we I say that we should do a nikah, we making God our witness or Gua that I will be loyal to this relationship, and I can only do this with the permission of Allah, just like when we do Qurbani, we say, Allah Ta'ala, I could not done that, take somebody's life, but with your permission. So that's how we, it's not a declaration that you do a declaration and just start making babies without, without nikah. We make Allah our Gawar. So was I right or was I wrong?
You see, it's not sufficient to make God as your witness, because, I mean, God knows what's happening anyway without your even telling him or making him a witness. It is important that society should be told that the two people who are now living in this house or this apartment or this room, they are not living a life of sin, they are living as husband and wife. Because you see, it's their reputation that is at stake. When you know that a certain couple is living without marriage, you know what's going to happen. So Islam wants to safeguard the integrity and reputation of every person. The honor is most important, that it must be preserved, and that can only be done if people know that this couple is living as husband and wife, and that has to be a general news.
That was a discussion that they said, well, I'm a husband, we are girlfriend and boyfriend for like 5 years, 10 years. Everybody knows that we live together, we're loyal to each other. So what's the difference?
I mean, you see, when you're a husband and wife and when you're a girlfriend and a boyfriend, the difference is that a girlfriend and a boyfriend, they are bound in no sort of responsibility contract. When you become a husband, you become responsible for your wife, and you declare that she is going to be my wife. I'm not going to enter into other relations. So you see, it's like a commitment that you make. In the case of a girlfriend and a boyfriend, you don't make this commitment. So if something goes wrong, you just leave your girlfriend, you go to another girlfriend, and this process keeps on and on. There's no formal process of severance, so to speak. So Islam has given it a complete shape. It's not just Islam. In fact, it is in the Mosaic Sharia, it is in the Sharia of previous prophets, that this declaration should be a formal one in which responsibilities and rights must be decided.
So in Spanish culture, lot of them, they have 3-4 kids and then they get married. Then
I know that. Yes, not as in Spanish culture. It's a dominant culture in Europe and many other countries that they first have children and then they decide to get married. So I mean, what can we say? I mean, this is like going the other way around, and that has become a norm. But all that we can say is this is not the right sequence.
Thank you.
So making Allah your witness or your part of the covenant is not necessary.
Not necessary. The people should know around you that you are living as husband and wife.
Danish, did you have a question?
Yes. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, please go
Yes, we
ahead.
can.
Yeah. All right. And this is actually the first lecture that I am attending. And my question is, Dr. Shehzad, that is there any specific requirement for the husband and wife to have the intention of living together forever when they are doing nikah?
Yes, of course. I mean, why should that be something not present in their minds? Is it like you're saying that, okay, I'm going to marry you for 10 years or 15 years? Otherwise, if you even if you don't have this intention, all that you know is that you're going to be with me and I'm going to be with you, unless some problems arise and they become, I mean, you cannot resolve them, you cannot reconcile. And then, of course, in that case, we will be parting our ways. So that is already understood in the commitment that you are making.
So what you essentially mean is that although there is no such requirement specifically pointed out in the Quran or any historical, literature, in your opinion, I would say, in your opinion, it is already something that should be there.
It is understood. You see, it means that I'm going to be with you and you're going to be with me as long as things are smooth and we are able to go along. If things come to worse, if they go south, and if in any way we are not able to tag along and parting ways is the only option, then that is something that we will do. I mean, this is why divorce has been kept as an option in every divine Sharia.
So it's not one of the farais, but it's
No,
the
it's not.
intention and
It is. You don't need to even think about it. You see, when you marry someone, you marry that person because you would like that person to be with you. But in case the marriage does not work after a lot of hard work, after a lot of maybe sessions and therapies, etc., then that option is already there. You don't need to think about it. I mean, it's already there for you
Exactly.
if something comes to that end.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Thank you so much, doctor.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saleem. I think that was it for all the questions that we have today. Thank you for another phenomenal lecture. And Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thanks to all the participants for coming through.